Welcome to another Dragonlance Saga Order of Aesthetic news episode. It's been a really long time since I've done one of these, but for good reason, because there's not a lot of Dragonlance news dropping every moment, right? Well, today I just saw something come across my radar, so I want to talk about it with you. Now it is Majitog? Brook Green the 8th. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to be sifting through the Arcana Chronos and ran across this exciting bit of news. Wizards of the Coast posted an Unearthed Arcana article on the Heroes of Krynn for playtesting in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So I'm going to welcome you guys to interact with me during the course of this, but basically I'm just going to break down this playtest information and maybe extrapolate a little bit on what they're going to be trying to do with Dragonlance based on this playtesting information. And we can just have a little bit of Dragonlance fun on a Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? On a Majitog afternoon. Anyway, I'd like to take a moment and thank the members of this YouTube channel and invite you to consider becoming a member if you're not already one. And you can always pick up Dragonlance gaming materials using the affiliate link in the description below. Both of those are great ways of helping support this channel and my continuous obsession with putting out Dragonlance content. Okay. So let's take a look at this, shall we? This is by Ben Petrosor, F. Wesley Schneider, and Jeremy Crawford. Now, this is again from the Unearthed Arcana on Dungeons & Dragons website, dnd.wizards.com. This Unearthed Arcana, what used to be an extension of the rules in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, they've turned it into a sort of a playtesting area for their website, right? So Unearthed Arcana is literally just them trying out new ideas, new rules, and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. So everything that's contained in this article is not necessarily going to make it to the final version, but I do believe we can get some good idea about what they're trying to do with the saga through this. So you read all this earlier today, super stoked about this and what this could mean for the future. Duck Fear, thanks for joining live, and I hope I share with you because I haven't read all this, and that's why I wanted to do this live and just sort of riff about it. Because again, I do not play Dragonlance 5th edition, so it doesn't matter to me what they do or how they change or adapt anything. But this is a Dragonlance channel, and so I do feel obligated to talk about it. And I have basic understandings of what 5th edition has done and is trying to do to the Dungeons & Dragons multiverse, as it were, as far as game mechanics are concerned. And so that's why I think it's interesting to see how they're approaching the Dragonlance-specific rules and characters, because let's be honest, Dragonlance has always been something different. You know, completely different game mechanics, completely different approaches to types of characters that didn't exist in any other realm, and not just characters, but creatures too. Artifacts, you know, this has always been a very protected, insulated IP. And now that it's being brought into 5e, as everyone's been clamming for, well, you might not like what you see when they have to conform those special elements to fit the narrative that is at play here. Okay, so that being said, it starts out with your generic information. Hey, Brian, thanks for joining. You're curious to see what I think about this, how they sidestep the whole kleptomania aspect. Oh, we're going to get into that because I did see that. Okay, so for Kendr, this is going to introduce Kendr as a race, and then it's going to introduce some class mechanics through feats and I don't know, different game mechanics that the 5th edition is going to approach. But we'll get into that in just a second. We're going to start with Kendr. So native to the world of Krynn, Kendr are diminutive humanoids that look like humans with pointed ears and diverse appearances. Kendr have a supernatural curiosity that drives them on to adventures big and small. This curiosity is said to be connected to the whimsical magic of the Feywild that some believe Kendr have an affinity for. So this curiosity is said to be connected to the whimsical magic of the Feywild. This is already setting it up, saying Kendr are not the mortals that we are familiar with. They're actually going to be some sort of Fey hybrid in order to explain how they are able to do what they do. I'm already not liking that as an idea because I genuinely like the idea of Kendr being a spin-off between either elves or gnomes, depending on who's talking about it, or even dwarves, depending on who's talking about it, through the Grey Gem, not trying to fit it in with other established creatures. Okay, so that being said, due to their curiosity, many Kendr have found themselves falling through the gates and portals to other planes and worlds. What? What? Due to their curiosity, many Kendr have found themselves falling through gates and portals to other planes and worlds. So we all knew that Dragonlance, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is going to be trying to create this unified multiverse. So, and I think it's important to talk about this briefly, and I'm actually doing an entire episode based on it through the lens of Spelljammer for next week's Dragonlance setting video. But the multiverse that was in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, you had your planes of existence and you had your prime material plane, and within that, through the different space and planets and solar systems or spheres, the multiverse was very much, there were different locations depending on the campaign, right? So different campaigns. All of those campaigns were bound within their own spheres of reality, and each of them operated differently. And that's why you didn't have one unified cosmology or unified pantheon of deities or even just rules. You could have your own gameplay mechanics based on the campaign itself that did not have to fit into the other worlds, other campaign worlds that were also in Dungeons and Dragons. That's how it was originally. With 5th edition, they're throwing all of that out and saying, no, yes, we're still going to say that there's a multiverse, but everything operates in the exact same way as far as the game basis is concerned. So if you want to play Dragonlance, you no longer have to buy the Dragonlance campaign source book. You just buy a couple of the other source books like Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, and you can start to incorporate some of those Dragonlance elements or creatures or ideas into your campaigns without ever even having to be on Krynn or anything. Now, as far as unifying the entire game system and all the campaigns, yeah, that makes sense. As far as holding on to what makes a campaign special, like a campaign world special, you're ruining it. You're completely washing it all away. Rather than it being special and different, now everything is wonderful and happy and the exact same, which is boring. It's no longer special. It's connected to everything else. All right. So Dalamar, live stream you were waiting for. Thanks for joining live, man. Benjamin, how you doing? Good to see you. You kind of see it if you think of the chaos as originally part of the chaotic energies of the Feywild, but that's kind of stretching things. Yeah, I mean, again, they're going to be doing a lot of tiptoeing and rewriting histories in order to get the game mechanics to fit, and ultimately that's all they care for. They want to sell more products, and the best way to do that is to have it already fit in with everything that exists beforehand. So you'll see at least Wizard of the Coast is keeping alignment-based traits, even though 5e has been moving away from alignment in general. David, thanks for joining live. Yeah, I mean, we'll take a look and we'll see how far it goes. But again, I was just trying to explain the multiverse approach that was and that now is, and how they are dramatically different in tone and approach. So unknown to most mortals, a magical phenomenon surrounds a Kendr. A magical phenomenon. Spurred by their curiosity and love for trinkets, curios, and keepsakes, a Kendr's pouches or pockets will be magically filled with these objects. No one knows where the objects come from, not even the Kendr. This has led many Kendr to be mislabeled as thieves when they fish these items out of their pockets. So it's not they're just naturally curious and grab things based on that insatiable curiosity. No, this is a magical thing now. Because why would it need to be normal when you could just attach a magical ability to it and gamify it, right? I have a real problem with this idea. The whole point of Kendr is that, yes, they constantly are aware that they're grabbing things. That's why they're so excited about emptying and sharing their pouch contents with each other. But it's still, it's a subconscious thing, but it's still in their consciousness. This is actually taking it out of their control 100%. And now you just roll what they're calling the Kendr Ace. And that will randomly choose an item out of your pouch that's magically been placed there. Has nothing to do with the Kendr at all, just their fey whimsical nature. Things just appear, literally. What? that, that completely changes Kendr. Completely. Okay. So, starting at 3rd level, you possess a magical ability to pull an item out of your bag or other container as a bonus action. You can reach into your container you're carrying and roll the Kendr Aces table to determine what item you pull out. Some of these is like 5d6 gold, one simple weapon of your choice that has a light property, one item of your choice from the adventure gear table in the player's handbook, one random item from the trinkets table in the player's handbook, your choice of crowbar or a grappling hook. Okay. Apparently, it's like, what was the name of that magical bag that you could just reach your hand into and just, like, you could stuff anything in it. It went to, like, some other realm of existence. That's kind of what these pouches are now, because size doesn't matter. You can pull out a grappling hook from your pouch. One item of your choice from the tools table in the player's handbook. Okay, so what they did was remove the possibility of the Kendr having handled anything from another player character or an NPC or their environment, full stop. Now it's just, hey, random item. So why is that special? Why is that interesting? How is that unique at all? Like that, it's just a random piece of junk. Before, the piece of junk belonged to someone else, hence the hilarity of it or the frustration. But now it's just totally random. It has no connection with anyone. It's just, hey, look what I found. It's a crowbar in my pouch. Okay. It just doesn't make sense is all. Yeah, the pouch of many things. Thank you so much, Robert. Thanks for joining live, by the way. It's really strange approach. And I don't know why they would take this approach rather than saying leave it up to DM and player discretion. Or, like Dragonlance Nexus put together an entire chart of another chart of what could be taken or when it could be taken or whatever. It's a strange approach to the issue, but that's not the only thing that they changed. Again, Kendr are no longer Kendr, they're Fae-like, right? And magical innately. So Brave, you have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the frightening condition on yourself. You're no longer immune to fear. You just have a better chance of avoiding it. That was the whole point of Kendr. Their innocence was so pure and intact, they didn't understand the idea of fear. Not anymore. Now they're just brave. All right. I'm just saying it's not the same. And you could have, and again, these are not final. This is playtesting material, so it could fully change. But why not keep the spirit of the character that was created and then try to roll it into a new system rather than changing the character into something entirely different? That's what I'll never understand, because ultimately what you're doing is sapping away what makes Dragonlance special. And that's just with this one. So Taunt, you have a supernatural ability to hone in on a creature's emotional raw nerves and craft a taunt that flusters that creature. So that's also the same. But that's pretty much it for Kendr, right? They are very different. They're no longer regular humanoids. Now they're magical, fey creatures. Again, I don't play 5th edition, so it doesn't matter to me. Kendr will always be 1st edition to me. That's, my mind. So for those of you who like playing Kendr or like Kendr in your games, what do you think about this version? I personally think it sucks. You did like Ravenloft Vampire Kendr yourself. I love Vampire Kendr. I think that's a horrible thing to throw against a player. Just a nightmare. And again, Chris, you're absolutely right. You're the DM. You make the rules. And so I think that's always been the case, and that's how home games work anyway. It's not like we're having some tournament and someone's standing over you saying, that's not how Kendr are written. You can't do that. No, do whatever you want. But it is interesting to see the intention behind the character as outlined by the company that is making the official material. That's what I find interesting. Navia, thanks for joining live. Having Kendr solve problems by always having useful tools feels like it's really nice niche stomping on Tinker Gnomes. Yeah, a little bit. I'm not sure how useful a grappling hook will always be in every situation, but Because it's all based on a roll, you know? It's all just random. All right, so let's look at the Sorcerer subclass. And this is dealing specifically with Lunar Magic. Again, Solinary, Lunitary, and Nuitary. At first level, a sorcerer gains the Sorceress Origin feature, which offers you the choice of the subclass. The following option is available when making the choice: Lunar Magic. So Lunar Magic, on many worlds, the moon is a revered celestial body with magical properties. On Krynn, the gods of magic are associated with the world's 3 moons. On the world of Toril, the god Saloon uses the light of the moon to battle darkness. On Eberron, scholars of draconic prophecy decipher ancient secrets from the waxing and waning of the world's 12 moons. You or someone of your lineage has been exposed to the concentrated magic of moons of your world, imbuing you with lunar magic. Perhaps your ancestors has evolved in a druidic ritual involving an eclipse, or maybe a mystical fragment of a moon crashed near you. However you came to have your magic, your connection to the moon is obvious when you cast sorcerer spells. Consult the Manifestations of Lunar Magic table, then choose or randomly determine how your connection to the moon manifests when you cast your sorcerer spells. So no longer are you reliant on the moons or having to track them for their waxing or waning positions in the sky. Now you just are moved by the moon. Which is kind of weird, right? Because magic on Krynn was very different. You originally had innate magic of Krynn based on the creation of the world. And then as soon as the 3 gods came in, they sort of put a stop to all that and said, no. No one has access to magic unless you come through us. And then ultimately, you know, Takesis or the other gods would grant magical abilities to different creatures. Or if it was like a dragon, for example, it still was able to tap into the natural magic of the earth that was left over from creation, or of Krynn, not the earth. And so magic was sort of controlled. In 5th Age, they changed all that so that the gods being absent could no longer grant magic, except for Takesis. And then, you know, we found a way of tapping into that chaos magic that was inherent in the earth again. In Krynn again. This is like a weird amalgamation of both of those, where it's saying, no, you have magic because you're a magic user. The gods have nothing to do with it. You're just moved by the moon from time to time. So some of these manifestations is you glow with faint light that matches the color of the moon of your world. Your pupils shift in shape, matching the current phase of a moon of your world. Spectral manifestations of the moon or moons of your world orbit you. Your shadow is is limed in faint light as if it were a lunar body during a solar eclipse. You can call down radiant light of the moon on your command. You learn the sacred flame spell, which doesn't count against your number of sorcerers. Lunar embodiment. You learn additional spells when you reach certain levels of this class. Again, you're stripping away what makes Krynn special by removing the requirement of connecting. And here's the thing. If their Dragonlance campaign setting is set in the 5th Age or later, then who cares? It doesn't matter, because ultimately everyone has access to magic at that point, right? Depending on your class. But if they are, like we're suspecting, it's going to be set during the War of the Lance or right after the War of the Lance, well then that changes everything. That completely adjusts all the idea of Dragonlance. Magic was a tightly controlled thing because it was so powerful. It was so powerful that it actually drained you physically. Magic could change you just by connecting to it. It was a drug that you tapped into, that people who loved it far too much. It controlled them to some point. And now it's just like, the moons are there. They don't really matter. Okay, great. At least this playtesting and give enough feedback are concerns. Perhaps WotC will take that into consideration. I don't think they care, but that is the point of this. That is definitely the point. If you care about this stuff, you have a voice, and all you have to do is give them your honest opinion, and that's going to help them shape. It may not change the way they do it, but it might help them shape the way that they craft these different classes. This subclass is so good and overpowered. Is it? Like, you get an extra spell. Doesn't everyone in 5th edition have spell-like abilities at this point? Like, I guess I don't understand why it's so good. Please explain to me, because I am ignorant to this. Waxing and Waning, 6th level Lunar Magic feature, no longer 3rd. You gain control over the phase of your Lunar Magic. As a bonus action, you can spend 1 sorcery point to change your lunar phase for a different one. Okay, so what's the point of that? So you have Lunar Embodiment at 1st level, which grants you an extra spell at full moon, new moon, and crescent moon. And then Lunar Boon lets you change it from new, full, or crescent. And Waxing, you can spend a sorcerer point to change the lunar phase. It's the meta magic. So Lunar Empowerment, the power of a lunar phase saturates your being. Whenever you choose a lunar phase to affect your magic, you also gain following benefits associated with the phase. So you shed bright light, you have advantage on dexterity checks. In addition, you have dim light, you have resistance to necrotic radiance damage. That would be pretty good in certain circumstances. Yeah, like, is it easy to level up to 14 and 18th level? Because that's when you're seeing the real benefit of this. Huh. That's weird. Whenever you use meta magic on a spell with the lunar spells table or a spell of a school of magic associated with the lunar phase you're in, you can reduce the sorcery points spent by 1. Okay, I guess that's the OP part. Yeah, and then at 18th level, you're just supposed to be a super badass, so it doesn't really matter. I wonder if they'll maintain that sort of 18th level cap that Dragonlance always had, where you get too powerful, then you're going to challenge the gods, and they can't have that, so they sort of kick you off world. I think that'll be interesting. Yeah, so you don't track it as much as, like, you can actually change it, it says. Like, you're influenced by the natural state of the moons, right? In that a 1st level sorcerer on full moon can get Fairy Fire, and on new moon can get Dissonant Whispers, and on a crescent moon can get Sanctuary. But then later you can actually spend a sorcery point to change the phase of the moon, so that doesn't actually change the moon, but it just changes the spells that you have access to from the phase. It's a little confusing to me. But yeah, it's, again, not until like 14th level that you actually get real power from these moons. Yeah, Justin, yes, he did. He totally did. Effed it up for everyone. All right, Knights of Slamnia. This is one that I always loved because I love Knights of Slamnia. I love Paladins. I love holy warrior type classes. So you've trained to be a Valorous Knight, known as the Knight of Slamnia. Strict rules guide your every action, and you work to uphold them as you strive to defend the weak and oppose all forms of evil. Your honor is as important to you as your life. Let's see. Features. You gain the Squire of Slamnia feat, presented later. We'll look at that. In addition, Knights of Slamnia provide you free modest lodging and food at any of their fortresses or encampments. Okay. Let's see. So it's a subclass that you pick up. And there are certain personality traits that you can get, certain trinkets that you can get. And then I guess later on we'll get into feats, but that doesn't seem like a lot. Let's go down to the feats really quick before we do the Mage of High Sorcery, because I want to see some of these feats here. Where are you? So Knight of the Rose is a feat? You're a Knight of Slamnia aligned with the Order of the Rose, a group known for leadership, justice, and wisdom. You resolve grants you these benefits. So whenever you're able to pick up a feat, you can just grab it. Now again, this is all up to the playing characters and ultimately the Dungeon Master, right? But part of what I loved about starting in orders and having to petition for the new orders is the role-playing aspect of it. So you can still do that if you pick up a feat and say, okay, well then let's role-play this out before you have access to that feat and see if you're actually worthy or not. But there was also this really, especially during the War of the Lance era, this arrogant class system associated with the Knights of Slamnia, Rose Knights specifically. You had to have been noble birth to even be considered into the Rose Knights. And I never really liked the idea of that, but it does seem like it's something that this sort of religious knightly order would impose in order to maintain some form of feigned purity about themselves. And it also sort of made the Knights of Slamnia not completely good. And I kind of like that, they have the best of intentions, but we all know the best of intentions, the road paved to hell is through best intentions, right? However the saying goes. So I thought that's kind of interesting. But always role play out every benefit, I think that's the most important thing, because then there's a sense of pride that you worked for it. It wasn't just, oh, I leveled up, so I'm choosing this feat. I think that's weird. Each feats for each type of order can also keep choosing orders and keep the benefits of all. I don't like that. When a creature uses, so tactical teamwork is Knights of the Crown feat. When a creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes the attack roll against another creature that's within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to grant advantage on the attack roll. That's cool. Willpower for the Knight of the Rose. Immediately after you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you fail an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throw, you can hit. So do you not get spells anymore? Like, it's not a clerical order anymore? Like, like the Knights of Slamnia had, like, each order had their thing. The Knights of the Crown were the warriors. The Knights of the Sword were sort of like, if memory serves, they were the cleric warriors. And then the Knight of the Rose was sort of the leadership. Even though each order had their own leadership structure, as they approached the 3 orders, that was kind of it. So the Knight of the Rose has Bolstering Rally. When you roll initiative, you can choose up to 3 other creatures you can see within 30 feet of you. Each creature gains temporary hit points equal. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I guess the only thing that bugs me about that is the lack of spell access, right? Because I kind of like that aspect of it. There's a big part of them in the novels, their perceived superiority for sure. If this is set after War of the Lance, it would make a great setting to rebuild their reputation. Yeah, I mean, as far as the knighthood has sort of cannibalized itself at this point, like at the end of the novels that have been written to date, as far as the timeline goes, they're like fighting amongst themselves. It's just like the Knights of Deceit. It's kind of crazy. Let's see, what else you guys got? It's not a subclass. It's a background, not a subclass. It's background. There are feats for each type of order. You can also keep choosing. Didn't they call it that, though? This section presents two. Okay, so trained as a warrior. You gain this nice Squire of Slamnia feat. Any class or subclass that has the martial prowess can be a good fit in the Knights of Slamnia. Clerics, often with the war domain, can also be found among the knight's ranks. So you can be a spellcaster and a knight. So that in that particular case, then it doesn't matter, because you could be a cleric and a Knight of the Crown. I don't know. It does very much feel like they're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. They're trying to say, we want to give you a little flavor of Dragonlance, but we don't want to be bound by the restrictions that Dragonlance had always previously had upon its different classes and characters. And certainly not the full benefits of them. The feat has a prerequisite of the Squire, and the Squire feat can only be gained by linking the background, which is something you have to lock your character into during class creation. Yeah, but it was just saying, you could be a cleric and do it, or a paladin and do it. And I don't know. I always saw the I don't know. I just saw it as different, I guess. I mean, again, I'm not playing it, so it doesn't matter to me. But it does feel different just on reading it. I do appreciate you guys' clarifications, though, because that helps me understand it infinitely more than just reading it and reacting to it. Yeah, Justin, where's the mustache feat? Man, I got to work on that. Get my mustache feat up there. All right, let's look at the Mage of High Sorcery. Your talent for magic came to the attention of the Mages of High Sorcery, an organization for spellcasters that study magic and prevent its misuse. You've trained among the mages, and whether or not you'll face the dangerous tests required to become a true member of the group remains to be determined. Your passion for studying magic has likely already predisposed you toward one of the organization's 3 orders: the Benevolent Order of the White Robes, the Balance Pursuing Order of the Red Robes, or the Ruthless Order of the Black. In the world of Krynn, many refer to the mages of high sorcery as the wizards of high sorcery. The organization accepts more than wizards, though, with bards, sorcerers, warlocks, and other spellcasters. What? What? I'm not sure how I feel about that. We do have precedent for like fighter, wizard. The thing is like the whole point was that you devoted yourself to magic, you know, at 3rd level. That's why if you got your magic up to 3rd level, you could go do whatever other multi-class option you wanted. That's why, oh, not Porthios, but, oh, why can't I remember? Gilthanas. He was a fighter mage. And he was not part of the Order of High Sorcery because he didn't want to take the test. He just wanted to have enough magic to be useful and then go about his fighter career. But being a bard in the Order, I don't know. That fits weird with me because I always saw the Order as this almost suffocating organization that didn't want anyone practicing magic unless they devoted their entire lives to it. That's just how I always saw it. Even though we did have examples of like sailors that were in the Wizards of High Sorcery and they didn't look, the Orders of High Sorcery, and they didn't look like traditional wizards. They looked, you know, very strong and stuff. But even then, they were still wizards that just also sailed. I don't know, read Mages of High Sorcery sidebar in gray on the right. Mages of Dragonlance. In past presentations of the Dragonlance settings, several of the Dungeons & Dragons modern spellcasting classes didn't exist. To accommodate these classes, the groups known as the Wizards of High Sorcery has evolved into the Mages of High Sorcery. The group's distinct orders and signature robes remain, but the order now accepts members of a broad range of spellcasting traditions. Members who find their magical influence by the phase of the moon are also remain part of the group, largely represented by the sorcerers. I don't know. I don't like it. I'm a purist, though, you know? Like, that's it. Bards existed in Krynn. They just didn't exist in the way that, like, narratively, in stories they existed. I think even in 2nd edition, bards were a part of the classes that could be chosen. In the Tales of the Lance box set. Let's see. I don't know. Interesting. So they just adapted and overcame. Again, I guess it just depends on the timeline here and whether or not they're even going to respect the existing timeline at all. Whether this is going to be a full-on reboot of what Dragonlance is and was, or whether they're going to keep all of the content that existed and say, okay, we're fitting in right here in the timeline between everything else. I guess that's really what matters. The idea of the Orders of High Sorcery rebranding because there's some new types in town is full-on BS to me. The whole point was that they forced you to be in the Order if you used magic above a certain level, or they killed you. That was the whole point. One of us or die. Not, hey, you share some of the magic so you can be a part of the team, and hey, you could be a part of the team. Do you have to take the test anymore? Like, okay, Initiate. You gain the Initiate of High Sorcery feat presented later in this document. In addition, the Mages of High Sorcery provide you with free modest logic. Okay, let's look at the Initiate. Eyes. Prerequisite Apprentice of High Sorcery. Where's that? Where's Apprentice of High Sorcery? Did I miss it? Where did you go? Adept. I don't see it. Do you guys see it? Is it something you're just given? Where's Apprentice of High Sorcery? Okay, well, it doesn't matter, I guess, because I don't see it. Anyway, that was the prerequisite. So, prerequisite Apprentice of High Sorcery. You've received training from magic users affiliated with the Mages of High Sorcery. Choose one of the 3 moons. Each is associated with a distinct type of magic. And then you get cantrips based on the moon. Cantrips of all wonderful spells. Okay. That's pretty dumb. Again, this isn't adding the role-playing element. This is just the bare game mechanics. And so I would hope that you would still role play the test and not just say, I choose the feat, because that would be lame. Yeah, it does look like Apprentice got left off for sure. Your concern is that the time travel stuff is going to retcon some things. Well, they straight up said, WotC said to Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, your book has nothing to do with our continuity. That's why it's called Classic Dragonlance. So it's your time travel with this new trilogy doesn't matter for this campaign source book at all. This is all brand new WotC stuff, and they're going to do it the WotC way with 5th edition like they've done everything else. Like it or not, that's how it works. So you don't really have to worry about how anything is going to retcon anything in the novels based on the game, because they are separate entities. The Knights were not so specialty area for you in reading the series, so you had to look this up. On the very shallow search, you found that one of the order was related to a god. Habakkuk, Kiri, Joleth, and Paladin. Yep, that's right. Each of them was. It was like their patron deity, because each of them, you know, the traits that those gods exhibited or demanded from their disciples were inherent in each order when Vinus Solamnus had his vision. Okay, so that's interesting. Divinely favored. What is this? Divine communications. Is this all for the... A god has chosen you to carry a spark of their divine power. You learn thaumaturgy, cantrip. What is that from? Is that a spellcaster one? Or a cleric one? Divinely favored feat. Okay. So yeah, each order is a foot. Is feet plural foot? Or are the feats in singular form foot? It's just still feet. Everything's feats. Sounds like I'm saying it wrong. Everything's feetsies. Everything's feces. All right. That's it. So it is a little bit different. You can tell they're trying. They're trying to keep as much of what was special about Dragonlance in it. They're just trying to also take that and conform it with what exists. I can't fault them for it. I don't think they're trying to ruin anyone's childhood. They're doing their best to conform a campaign setting, and let's be honest, was dramatically different than any of the other ones. Like, incredibly different and very specialized, and it was it was a wonder why it lasted and is so popular as it was. If it wasn't for the novels, I would argue it probably wouldn't be. But because it is so different, it makes it tougher to fit into those homogenous campaign worlds that they're trying to push out nowadays, you know. But here's something that I'm wondering about you guys. Are you okay with other races that are not of Krynn now coming into Krynn, because it's 5th edition? So you're going to have a bunch of sentient little fuzzy animal creatures, and you're going to have a whole bunch of fey creatures, and a bunch of like demon inspired creatures, and you're going to have dragonborn, but they're not draconians. And, you know, I mean, are you guys okay with the influx of every other campaign creature into Dragonlance? And then, is it still Dragonlance? Like, what is it that makes Dragonlance a special campaign setting? Is it the differences, the differentiating factors that separate it? Or is it just this amorphous spirit of Dragonlance? Because if it's the differentiating factors, then it can't be conformed and still maintain its integrity as its own thing. It is instead going to be an amalgamation of something else. It won't be Dragonlance anymore. So the more you strip away and the more you homogenize and the more you sort of normalize this campaign setting, the less like Dragonlance it becomes. And that's my concern. I really love the idea of the creation mythos of Dragonlance. I love the idea of the race origins in Dragonlance. I love the idea of magic and how it came to be and how it was stripped away and how it was given back. I love the idea of the gods playing massive roles in mortals' lives, even though it can be frustrating. 100%. I love the differences of Dragonlance compared to Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms. That's what made it special. I don't know. The irony is that Dragonlance was unique and distinctive by building a setting around the rule engine of the time instead of the other way around. Now we see it happening in reverse. That's a really good point. Yeah. You picked the world for races, in your opinion, but you did let people play Paladin from level 1. I mean, that's fine. Whatever. That's good. Particular classes of Mage is less important than the Conclave as a regular body to keep spellcasters from breaking the world. I guess that's my biggest fear, is that it's not even a fear. My biggest thought is that that structure that was there is no longer important. It's there for color. It's not there for actual practice. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, we all have the Orders of High Sorcery t-shirt. Awesome. But what does it mean? Nothing. It just means we have a t-shirt. You know? Like, I follow the lunar phase of the moons, and it lets me do this cantrip. A little fire comes out of your finger, and that's it. Like, that's the beginning of end of the moon's influence on Krynn. It doesn't make your power stronger or weaker, which I thought was a really great way of showcasing the influence of the moons themselves on magic, you know? Like, the more it waxed or waned, the better or less your spell casting went. You know, on the Night of the Eye, everyone was like, you know, that much more powerful. It made it an interesting and dangerous situation, world to be in. And you just don't have that anymore. I don't know. Again, I don't play 5th edition, so it's not going to matter to me. But I do find it interesting. And again, I don't think they're trying to messy up anyone's day. This is all playtesting material. They're trying to find a nice balance between what exists and what could exist with the Dragonlance campaign sourcebook that they're working on. It is nice that they're doing something. And I have to say that. And I do mean it. Whether or not Kendr are Kendr anymore, whether or not Orders of High Sorcery or the Knights of Slamnia are really actual organizations, or if they're just feats that you just pick up and name, at least they're trying something. And I got to be honest, even bad Dragonlance, in my opinion, is still good Dragonlance. I mean, the movie was not good, but it's still Dragonlance, and so I still like it. That's the kind of sucker I am for this campaign world. What are you gonna do? It's pizza. Bad pizza is still pizza. You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do? It's Dragonlance. It's still good. If you don't like it, don't play it. Play the other editions, because they still exist. And let's be honest, is this as big of a shock in game mechanics compared to Saga system? If you guys remember that, those were playing cards. There were no dice at all. You just had a hand that was dealt to you and that you drew yourself. And that was how you determined whether or not you did anything. So 5th edition Saga system was very different than any Dungeons & Dragons game. And so arguably this is a better port to Dragonlance than that was. Possibly. So anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time and attention. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this because, again, it's the first time that Dragonlance has been in anyone's radar news-wise. You know, new information coming out about it for a while. So I'll continue doing these news specials as more information about Dragonlance comes out. I didn't do one when the release date for Dragons of Deceit was brought forward from the 8th of August to the 2nd, I think it is now, because that's not really that big of a news. It's still in August of this year that's going to be released. But anything else that comes out that's big, you know, like the announcement of new classes or characters or races or the book itself, then I'll definitely be doing a news episode on that. And we can all get together and sort of geek out, you know, holding our breath and bouncing up and down on our toes, as that's what you do. Dragonlance? What are you going to do? This is why we do this. This is why we watch stuff like this on YouTube. This is why I create stuff like this. It's because I get this stupid nostalgia for Dungeons and Dragons based on this campaign alone. Anyway, that's it for this OA News episode. Are you looking forward to the Dragonlance sourcebook for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition? Do you prefer earlier editions of the game? Feel free to email me at info@dlsaga.com, or you can comment below. And for those of you tuning in live, I love you. Even if I disagree with you or you disagree with me, that's okay. The fact that you're showing up and you're having a conversation about it, that's what's special, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you again. I'd like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. You'd be surprised at how many views I get from people who are not subscribed. It just takes a little click. That's it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps me out a lot, and it helps other people find the channel a lot. And of course, we want to, spread the love with Dragonlance. So this is one little tiny effortless thing that you can do to help. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga, and I hope you'll join me in the celebration. Thank you for watching. My name is Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slamnia.